I feel like by answering the questions I've danced around probably the sort of substance that this interview is actually looking for. I haven't really gone into much detail about what I am actually doing now, and I haven't spoken necessarily about how the fairly traumatic experience of being forced out of a position that I had grown into and worked hard to develop led into this. So let me try and do that now. As I said in my answer to a previous question, I haven't done much with spoken word before. So as an editor, there was some stuff that I needed to think about, learn, and adapt my style and my ideas of good writing to. That wasn't terribly difficult. It's an ongoing process, of course. But along with that, I learned a lot about collecting geodata and using it to tell a story. So in my position as the company's editor, I was being paid to absorb a lot about a new sphere, a new way of telling stories. I like to think of it as a new medium because there really is no precedent for something that plays a sound file at a specific location. It allows for the immersion of the listener in a way that wasn't possible before. I mean, you can imagine that somebody arrives at a particular location and, like magic, a person starts speaking to them about that exact location, about the things that they can see. That presents new challenges to a writer because a lot of what writers have done in the past and a lot of what they have done well is describing a place and helping a person imagine themselves into a particular world. That's not necessary with this new medium. You have a listener who is there, who can see things that you don't need to point out. So your job as a writer becomes to take them past the obvious and to make them identify with a place. And so when you turn that into the priority of the writing, you start to get results that are not similar to previous mediums. And so I had 10 months of working with this as a medium in confined circumstances. I couldn't experiment as much as I wanted to because we were working for businesses who are, as I've said, naturally conservative. And I used that experience to expand on the owner of the company I worked for previously's ideas. He was, as I've said, not somebody with a writer's background. He was an engineer and came to content for GPS-triggered tours almost incidentally when customers who were buying GPS units from him started to ask whether he could provide content. And my feeling is that there isn't much of a future in actually selling GPS units because we carry them around now on our smartphones, and that the problem has actually never really been about technology. The problem is figuring out how to use this technology to tell compelling stories. So the focus of the business I've set up, VoiceMap, is to open this up to storytellers of different stripes. So we built a publishing tool that allows anybody to log in and start creating GPS-triggered narratives of their own. Basically, they create their route. We're only really looking at walking tours at the moment, but we will probably get into bicycles and driving further down the road. And they create a route, and then by placing pins on that route, we tell them how much talk time they have and how many words that breaks down into. And from that, they can pretty much do what's familiar, and that's tell a story. But we are providing them with lots of feedback and support about how to use the medium to its fullest. And we're having quite good success with that. And I believe that if we can tell stories well, we will find users. And so our focus really is on telling compelling stories. The idea is also that we're not just a tool for writers, and we're not just a single application. We want to be a distribution platform so that people can create applications of their own using our content. So instead of, at my previous company, which was business to business focused, we had a team of writers who worked with me as the editor, who then took the script to voice artists, the voice editor, and a sound engineer to produce audio that was connected to a map that told this audio when to play, and that went on to the sales team, who delivered it and took payment. And it was kind of like a production line. It wasn't really in tune with the way the sort of information economy works. And so we've opened that up. We have something that is quite similar to Amazon's agreement with writers, whereby people who create routes for us, who create stories for us, earn a percentage of the revenue. We think it should be a sort of an equal partnership, so they earn royalties of 50% on every download. And that means that we can tell stories about anywhere, and we can scale very quickly without having to hire a team to do a specific job. It also means that we can bring people on board who we could never hire full-time, people who are experts in their field, people who, for example, we have a botanist doing a tour through Cape Town's botanical gardens. We have a marine engineer doing a tour through Cape Town's waterfront. These are people who are busy with the job of engineering or botany, but can find the time to take people on a walk just this once. And so we get insights that wouldn't have been possible had we been sending writers out who were non-specialists, who probably hadn't spent much time in the place before, to go and suck up as much as they could in a short space of time, and then return to turn that into something generic for a company that was worried about offending people. So I believe we're going to produce much better content, and that we're fixing a problem that my last company hadn't even really thought of as a problem.